This is for a part 1. In this task, you're asked to show evidence of the primary keys, data types and imported data. Now, we need to go back to actually have a look at the introduction to questions so that we know what we're doing. You're told that there are 4 types of rooms in a hotel, which can be found in the file room type. And for each individual, rooms are listed in room.csv, visitors are stored in the file visitor.csv, and the reservations they've made are recorded in the file reservation.csv. So there's 4 data files that you need to use, and you're being asked to import that data, choose appropriate key fields and data types, and create the relationships between the tables. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about what's in these files, have a look at the introduction to the whole of task 4, which talks about it. But this is the visitor file, and I've opened this in Notepad because this is what it looks like. It's CSV, means it's comma separated values. So if you have a look here, each of the values is separated by a comma. But it's quite difficult to read because they're delimited, they're not fixed width, so you don't have a fixed width of each field. Each field can be as short or as long as it needs to be, it's just that it's separated by a comma. With CSV files, you can also look at them in a spreadsheet, and you can see down here, bottom left, but I've opened this up in a spreadsheet and it's a bit easier to read it in that manner. But we need to import it into the database. So the first thing we need to do is create a new database. So you want to create that new database, you can call it what you like, but I would suggest something along the lines of hotel reservations. Choose the folder where you're going to store it. I'm just going to put mine in my documents folder for now because I'm going to delete it in a minute anyway. And then you get this table 1. Now we don't need table 1 there, so we'll get rid of it because we're going to import all of our data. So the fact we're importing it means it's going to be external data, so you can select external. And then you can see here you've got import and export. So we're going to import, and you might think, oh, I'm going to import it from Excel because it's a CSV file, but actually it's a text file, it's just that we were looking at it in Excel. So we select to import from a text file. We then need to decide where we're going to import from. So I'm importing from the desktop, and go to this file here, and we've got data files, and then here's the file that we want. So the file that I'm going to import is called visitor. I'll click on open and we'll go OK. And it can't open it because it's already open by the spreadsheet. Now it's good that we've seen this error because that tells us that we need to make sure that the file is not open and that it's completely unlocked. So that's an error that you might come across. So we'll do this again then. So text file, choose the visitor file. It's remembered the folder I was in before. There we go, here is the data. Right. Delimited because we want a comma to separate each field. It should automatically default to the comma, but it's important here that we say that our first row contains field names, like this. We ignore this bit about the data types because we'll deal with that separately. But we don't want an extra primary key added. Can you see here it's adding an extra primary key? So we're going to choose our own primary key, and it defaults to visitor ID, which is exactly what we want it to do. And then we'll click on next. It says what do we want to call our table, or visitor makes sense because that's what it's been called. And we click on finish, and we should then see the table visitor. Okay, now before we carry on, you'll now need to import the reservations, of course using reservation ID for the primary key, the rooms, again using room ID, and the room types using type ID. So